right, you guys, so we're gonna get going. We saw a question in the chat that asked if we could record this, and it looks like we had to enable that before we started the meeting. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna record it on our end, and then we can send it out to you. We'll get emails if you guys are interested in having a copy of it, just so if that's something you want, we have it available. So welcome, thank you for coming. We appreciate you taking the time on a Thursday night, especially with the Seahawks playing, to sit here and chat with us. This is our way of hoping to give back and help you with some interview prep. So I'm going to do an introduction for myself, then I'll introduce my deputy chief, and then we have another lieutenant and a firefighter on, and then we'll head into some breakout rooms. So my name is Danica Lawson. I'm a firefighter with Eastside Fire Rescue. I've been here for about 4 years, and kind of the reason that I'm on this project is in my past life, before I was a firefighter, I was a manager, and one of my roles was actually a hiring process for nurses and care technicians. So I've sat in on a lot of interviews. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I want to get people well conditioned into, right? So that we can see your personalities when you're interviewing. So that's why I'm here tonight. Chief Lane, who you're going to meet in a second, was actually the one who started our 7-minute interview process and this new transitions towards the type of interviews that we're doing now. And I was kind of the first group that went through this new process, that 7-minute interview going on to those 30 minutes. So it ended up working out well for me, and we're here to help give you some tips. So I'm going to mute. I'm going to pass it over to Chief Lane.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Danica. And as Danica said, welcome. Thanks for sharing your time tonight with us. And I don't know if you know that the fire chief of Eastside Fire and Rescue is a huge Cardinals fan, Chief Clark. So the majority of us are rooting against our fire chief tonight, which is not typical in the fire service. So I'm a little bit at risk saying that right now. But welcome. And truly, this is an opportunity for this organization to give back to each and every one of you who certainly has invested time and money into testing with us. Sorry it didn't work out the first time, but we have had a lot of people come back through and be successful. And whether you end up as an employee here someday or somewhere else, this is why we were taking the time to help set you up for success, because overall it helps the fire service and the communities we serve collectively. So there'll be lots of great opportunity. And tonight is really about you as individuals versus when you came here and interviewed. It was a system we set up. As Danica mentioned, it was the 7-minute interview process, and you guys had a real brief time to share who you are. This is the 4th time we've done this, I believe, the first time we've ever done it on this sort of platform. So I apologize in advance for any of the technical glitches, but the goal here is to certainly make it worth your time tonight. And we want to do our best to answer each and everyone's question and certainly give you tools in your toolbox to be successful in your future interviews. So again, thank you for joining us tonight, and I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to, we have Lieutenant Cody Ramstead on here.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm coming to you from home, so don't mind the kids' playroom in the background. But kind of to echo what Chief Lane said, welcome. The interview process and working on interview skills is something that, I've helped quite a bit of prospective recruits with along the years. I've been with Eastside for about 18 years. It's a fabulous place to work because we get to do stuff like this. So, like I said, hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions you guys have and give you some tips and tricks that, might move you a little further along in the process next time. And with that, I think I'll kick it over to Monet.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Monet Wiles. I've been with Eastside for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in January. I personally interviewed with Eastside, I want to say 3 times. First 2 weren't successful, and the 3rd one was. And like anybody in the fire service, we all want to help each other get into the fire service. And I had a mentor help me improve my mentor skills. And that's why I'm here today, is help other individuals get better at their craft and present themselves in an attractive way to the fire service.
All right, and then right before we get started, Pam, can you introduce yourself for us as well?
Again, if I can find my mute button. Hi, I've probably talked to many of you over the last few months. I'm the administrative director here, which includes human resources. I've been working, coordinating hiring processes now for about 4 years, and it's the best part of my job. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure you have my email address by now. So thanks for attending tonight. We appreciate it. Thanks, Danica.
All right, so kind of what's going to happen for this first 10 minutes, we are going to place you guys in breakout rooms. What you're going to do in those rooms is I want you guys to all kind of give each other a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, how interven's been going for you, where you've been testing. Try to keep it to like no more than a minute per person. And then with that leftover time, there's actually going to be a document in there where you can start typing questions for us. So designate one person to kind of be the person that's going to type those questions up. And then after we go through our PowerPoint, we will hit those questions and get all those answers for you. Okay. So we have Monique, who's working in the background. She'll get all those rooms set up, and Eastside is not going to be in any of those rooms. So it's just going to be you guys as a group. So feel free to discuss and do whatever you need for those 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, it's going to kick you back into this main section.
This is Monique. I have put a link in the chat that is a Google Doc that is a live document. So when you go into your breakout room, you're going to see what room you're in. So on that document, there's room 1 through 9. And so just make sure you type your questions in the room that you are in so that we can keep them a little bit organized as we go through this. Hopefully everybody sees that document. If not, I will be watching the chat. So just, but I waited until just now. So everybody that's joined the meeting should be able to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and open those rooms. We're ready.
So I hope that was good. Hope you had some good introductions. I'm going to pull up our really brief PowerPoint. We're going to hit some things, and then we're just going to dive into your questions.
Somebody's asking you to shut down Google Doc now.
All right. Hopefully you guys can all see the beginning of our interview. If you can, just give me like a thumbs up. Perfect. Sweet. So we're just humble firefighters. Technology is something we're working on. So, I mean, first of all, welcome. Like we said, we're happy you're here. our passion is getting people into the fire service if that's your passion. So kind of our presentation goals today, we're going to talk about how to prepare some tools for your toolbox, and kind of putting it all together is us really just answering your questions. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Lane, and he's going to kind of give us our agency recruitment process, our beliefs, why we do the 7-minute interview, and kind of the philosophy behind that.
Okay, thank you, Danica. All right, so as you understand, at Eastside Fire, we have the 7-minute interview process, and I saw a lot of the questions already populated in the chat. What specifically we're looking for, are there buzzwords, and we'll get into more of that to try to answer those specifically. But the organization about 4 years ago, we took a drastic change and looked at a different approach. We recognized that historically we would use public safety testing. We would say, give us the top 50 written scores, and we would have a group come in and we would interview them through this standard traditional process. And we just started talking about, well, what would it do if we took 75 or 80% and above, and we interviewed everybody and we just gave them 7 minutes? And overwhelmingly, anybody that I've really talked to, they would rather be judged on how they can present themselves in 7 minutes than really trying to articulate who you are in a written process. So we recognized that written was our single largest filter in our recruitment process. So we still use that as the gateway into the interviews, but after that we really try to create an environment where you can be yourself. And we're really looking for folks just to be who they are as an individual. And honestly, the organization, we've hired some phenomenal people since that. Several of them are on here helping us tonight. And it just comes down to your core values and who you are. Do they align with what the agency is looking for? The other unique thing that our process does do is we really empower the members within the organization to pick what we call future family members. You may have looked at our website. Our motto is family serving family, and we really truly believe that. We believe it so much that even our fire chief is not even involved in the process. So it comes down to future family members are selected by those that are work here today. And there is no tricks to the trade. There's no specific buzzwords. We just want to set up an environment where you can come in, be relaxed, be yourself, be authentic, be truthful. Have a great conversation, give the opportunity to share who you are. And it has proven extremely beneficial for us as an organization. And I would imagine that you've been through a few other departments who are following suit. How this particular portion, this presentation came about was the first time we did it, we recognized that because we were going well below that top 50 group, a lot of the individuals never had any interview experience. And I also, as an agency, we didn't want to feel like we were treating people as a number. When we invite 400 people to an interview process, and we ultimately end up, having a list of 25 or 30 candidates that we hire from, I was like, well, what about the rest of the group? So this is the opportunity to invest back in you. You guys certainly took time out of your day. Some people traveled across state lines, flew in here to interview with us for 7 minutes. And again, back to our philosophy about family serving family, and that's you as well, future fire service family members. So I won't spend too much longer. I'll have opportunity to jump in and answer questions tonight. Again, welcome. And I certainly hope you guys get what you came for here, and we can help you be successful in the future. I'll turn it back over to Danica.
All right, you guys. So first one, preparation. So there's a lot of things that go into this. Things that I think about, right on the screen. So researching the department, knowledge of strength, pay attention to the details. Researching the department goes a long way. I know that we want to get hired, but something that I specifically am looking for when you're sitting down and you're interviewing with me is, are you really passionate about Eastside? Like, what makes Eastside stand out compared to other departments? And I don't think that would just be something that we see here at Eastside, when I talk to firefighters across the board, and I've been helping multiple other candidates interviewing for Kirkland, for Mercer Island, for Central Pierce, all those individuals that I talk to want to know why specifically you're passionate about their department. So going on our website, knowing our mission and values, you can even, right now with COVID, it's hard, but those board and city council meetings are also a great place to find information. And again, with COVID, it's hard to do station visits right now, but that's a great way to get to know people. Something that I think about in terms of preparation is preparing for your interviews. So for me, I am definitely an introvert. Interviewing is very hard for me. I get super nervous. And so something that I am looking for, right, is that if you're sitting down in front of me, can you keep your composure? Are you fidgeting? I've had people sit and click a pen an entire interview, or like ridiculously tap their feet. So we're looking for someone that you're making eye contact with all our members, you're engaged, you're excited, you're showing your personality. In terms of the preparation side with that, I had to force myself to do mock interviews in front of fire crews, in front of my friends and family, which was really hard because they can be your biggest critics. I would talk in my car, I would record myself, which is awful, but it is one of the best ways to actually see yourself and how you're presenting. So huge one in terms of preparing. For the pay attention to the details, I think something that's really important that gets missed a lot when I talk to Pam is specifically paying attention to the emails that get sent out and all the information, and making sure that you follow directions and steps along the way. So there's a lot of things like making sure you're on time, not reaching out at certain points. Like, we will get back to you. We promise. We have set dates and times that we're going to get back to you. And even so much as when you come in on that day of the interview, everyone that you come in contact with, from the front desk lady to someone out in the parking lot, is all kind of a part of your interview process. So making sure that you're paying attention to those small details as well. I'm going to let Chief Lane chime in on if he has anything else to share on this slide before we move on.
Yeah, I wrote myself a note. Separation is in the preparation. And really what I mean by that is that, it's all about being confident in who you are as an individual when you come in there. So when you prepare and you understand a lot about the organization, you're allowed to be more relaxed. Specifically for Eastside Fire and Rescue, what's the cities that we provide service to, the districts, spending time looking at their websites. Don't just look at Eastside Fire and Rescue's website. Check out Sammamish, Issaquah, North Bend. Look at District 10 and District 38's websites. Research that. So that knowledge, your knowledge is your strength. Now, that's not necessarily applicable in that first 7 minutes. That's going to be more, you'll have the opportunity to articulate that in the second round. But again, as you prepare, you're going to be confident, and that allows you to be more of who you are. We've all prepared for different things in our lives. You're nervous. I guarantee you that probably when you walked away from our tents this year, you're like, I should have said that. I should have done this. What was I doing? I mean, it's we're stellar in the car in the parking lot. And as soon as you sit down, then it's like, where did that go? So that's the preparation element. So again, strength is in the knowledge. We just want to help you be yourself in the interview process. Back to you.
Then Danik, I have a little something to add there.
All right.
Danik, you go back one.
Yeah.
So, when the middle bullet point was, knowledge is strength, right? Part of that knowledge is truly knowing yourself, truly knowing what your core values are, what you're not willing to sacrifice anything for in your life, what makes you you, and how that dovetails in with whatever agency you're testing for, right? So backing up, how you can tie those your own personal core values into the agency, into what their mission and values are. and how you get that to organically come across in the interview process. It's super important, because during that interview process, those panelists are making a potentially huge decision, a huge investment in you. So you want to be able to, articulate who you are and what you bring to the table for each agency that you test for. And so one of the things I did is I sat down, and you can buy them. They're little cue cards, and they just have core values written on them. And I laid them all out. And this is something we do as part of our ethical leadership class that a lot of us have gone through. You lay them out there, and you choose out of those 20, you choose your top 10. Then you narrow that down to 5. And then you choose out of those 5, you choose one last one to get rid of. And then those are your 4 core values. Those are what make you who you are. And then you can kind of wrap your answers to your questions around those core values, and then how it works into whatever agency you're testing for. Does that make sense? That's all I got.
I think that's awesome. Let's see. All right. So toolbox, we kind of touched on this already, right? But mentors, like, find someone in the fire service, and then find someone who's even not in the fire service that can be your mentors for this process, right? So when I decided that I wanted to make the step towards fire, I had a coach who was a firefighter, and I reached out to him. He took me along the whole way, right? Like, in terms of where to start for testing, which you guys have already figured out, but in terms of helping me set up those ride-alongs, helping me set up those mock interviews. They can show you so much. And I think having someone outside the fire service as well, right? Because when we talk about those core values, and if you have someone that's mentoring you inside and out, that's something that you can really hone in on through that. In terms of attitude is everything, I think Chief Lane will touch on it a little bit more, but in those 7 minutes, like, we're really looking at your personality. And I know for me personally, I'm always willing, if you totally bomb that interview, but I noticed there's certain parts in your presentation that you give us that makes me want to get to know you more as an individual, that's going to be awesome, because we're making decisions for these interviews of people that we are going to be working with for 24 hours, 48 hours at a time. And I know me personally, am looking for someone that I can work with for 48 hours, that's hardworking, that is truly passionate about the job. And you, during those 7 minutes, have a quick moment of time to really show a good attitude and be a personality that gets us excited and gets us to want to know you more. Chief Lane, I'm going to hand it to you.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Attitude is everything. And that's the one thing in life that we have 100% control over. 7 minutes on paper might not seem like a long time, but there's plenty of time to demonstrate who you are as an individual. And, Lieutenant Ramsey was talking about the investment. Organizations making a 30-year investment, but that's two-sided. You're making a 30-year investment in the organization. So it's got to be a place that you yourself will want to work. It's competitive, but it's not just about getting the job as a firefighter. It's about getting the job at the place that you want to work, where your values line up. And that's truly what we're looking for. And in that 7 minutes, Danica mentioned somebody might bomb an interview. Sometimes people walk away, it's like, I don't know really how to score the individual, but wow, they are a phenomenal person. They didn't really answer all the questions and give us the technical things that we're looking for. And we've hired several of those people. So it gets back to, if you show up, you have a positive attitude, smiling, it means a lot when you're there across the table from the group and you're interacting. The 7-minute interview, obviously those 2-person panels that you're seeing, they're probably interviewing about 75 to 100 people. It's like, really, how do you stand out? All of us here, if we were all in a room and we took a few minutes to get to know each other, you're like, you know what, that person had a really strong handshake. They brightened up my day. They asked me a question. You can judge people really quick. And this is that opportunity. It's not about, maybe judge isn't the right word. It's the opportunity for you to demonstrate who you are to us. and hopefully, I mean, I know this year was a little bit challenging with COVID and we had you outside, but I do know that other departments who utilized the same format, they attempted to do it virtually, and it really limited the ability to kind of grasp who the individual is. So really at the end of the day, like I said, attitude is everything. And another little point is visualization. So you can imagine everybody on here tonight. So we got 48 people on this, and you all probably have a similar goal, is to obtain a career in the fire service. Do you visualize that somewhere every day in your life? For me personally, at different points in my career, when I was preparing for promotional process, to me, the symbol of accomplishing a goal was whatever color the helmet was that I was pursuing. And that was something I constantly reminded myself. It wasn't about being arrogant or anything like that. It was about setting myself mentally and reminding, hey, this is what I'm working towards. So I would really encourage you to find a way to have your goal for you personally, whatever that is. Might be a symbol, might be a saying, something on the mirror when you see it in the morning. But to always have that in your forefront of your thought process. And that's going to come out in your confidence when you show up here to interview with us.
Cody or Monet, did you have anything you want to add on to that? No. All right. Okay. So putting it all together, right, kind of like we talked about, that practice, and getting outside your comfort zone. So I highly recommend recording yourself. It's so uncomfortable to watch yourself, but you can see times that you're using words repetitively. You can see yourself fidgeting. It'll help you hone in on toning those down. Getting your family and friends involved. Right now, it's really hard with COVID for you to actively go into the fire stations and get to do those mock interviews. So using your family and friends is going to be the best way. And I found actually that like my husband and some of my friends were like the harshest critics. And it was really hard to actually talk to them and to tell them about myself because they already know everything about me. So those are some of the best people that you can use to do those mock interviews. Getting outside of your comfort zone. So once those fire stations open up again, coming to those fire stations, putting yourselves in positions in terms of those ride-alongs, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I know it's hard for people to go out and meet people they don't know and put themselves in that position, but it shows that you care, and it shows us as firefighters, like, hey, this person, they really do want to get hired and they're passionate about what they're doing. And not being afraid to fail. I think that's something, a big thing for me, especially when it comes to interviewing or basically, I mean, anything that I do. So I know we're all here to learn to get better at these interviews, and that's perfect. You guys are already taking those steps and just making sure that you're putting yourself out there. I think something in terms of what Chief Lane said about us getting to know you in those 7 minutes, when you give us that oral resume, tell us everything about you, right? Like we want to know who you are as a human, not just what you do as a professional and what you've done to get, I guess, ready for the fire service. So when I came in, I didn't have any fire experience. I got really lucky that Eastside took a chance on me, but you have so many other experiences that can make you a unique individual. And we want to hear about those, and we want to hear about what you do outside of work, because that's who we're going to get to be seeing and working with. Lane, do you have anything?
Sure.
Yeah, so putting it all together, and there is no perfect way for everybody. It's for you as an individual, and Danica did a good job articulating getting outside your comfort zone and challenging yourself. The never be afraid to fail piece. There's you know, and I referenced it earlier, when you walk away from the interview, it's like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that. I mean, what do you have to lose? You literally have nothing to lose. You didn't have the job before you showed up. So don't leave anything in the car. Put it out there all on the table. And again, it's about, does the organization align with your core values? Is it the right fit for you? You know, one of our other deputy chiefs always says, we hire hearts and minds, and then the organization itself will provide the training. And that is very true. We have absolutely deviated from requiring a firefighter one, an EMT experience. It is about the individuals and building and expanding this family. It doesn't mean that if you have fire service experience that you don't get to share that in the interview process. We actually absolutely appreciate that, and that's taken into account. But if you are, you know, watching that timer and you're trying to decide, should I say something about what I've done as an EMT or a volunteer firefighter, or talk about my family, you would be surprised the number of people who go through their oral resume and they talk about all their professional accomplishments. And we might ask a question of, you know, family. Oh, I'm married, I have 2 kids. Those are, you're entering a fire service family. So be proud of that. Be proud of your parents, your childhood, those core values, how they were instilled in you as an individual. Let that stuff come out. And again, do not be afraid. You can stumble over your words. You know, the best thing in an interview, if I'm sitting across the table and they say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous right now. I'm just, you know, just let me compose myself. I'm just super excited for this opportunity. Thank you. I might fumble over my words a little bit. Right there, you've just neutralized this whole I'm nervous thing. And you're a human, right? And then you can let that come out. It is absolutely okay to fumble a little bit, stumble on your words. But I think it's great if you admit, hey, you know what? This is my first time interviewing, or I have tried so hard. I really want to be with this organization. So again, on that side of, do not be afraid to fail. The key on fail is failing forward, right? And that's what you guys are doing here today. You're building on your previous experience to be more successful next year. There is not a single person that I know who said and set out to have a goal, I want to be a firefighter, that has not accomplished that goal if they've stuck with it. So each and every person on this Zoom call today, so all 48 participants, absolutely, if you stick with it, you will accomplish that goal. And it comes down to having faith in yourself, having confidence, and continually pursue that.
To echo kind of what Chief Lane said, when I'm sitting on a panel and I do see somebody who's fumbling a little bit, and I do see somebody who's, you know, obviously a little nervous, I actually like that, because to me as a panelist, that conveys the message that this means something to them, you know, versus somebody who comes in and is completely polished and has canned answers for all the questions that, you know, that we're asking as a panel. You know, and kind of echo what Chief Lane said again, own that you're nervous. You know, personal accountability is one of my, you know, biggest core values, right? So, you know, if I'm nervous or fumbling around or something, you know, just by owning it, you know, it just neutralizes it, like Chief Lane said. So don't be afraid to, you know, to show a little bit of nerves and show that, you know, this truly means something to you during that interview process, because that's what we want to see as panelists. We want to see that passion. We want to see, you know, the things that, you know, we're basing our decisions off that stuff, off of you as a human being versus off of what degree you have, what college you went to, where you grew up. You know, to echo, you know, back to leaving it all on the table. Talk, if you know, if you're a coach, talk about the teams that you've coached. Talk about, you know, all the different civic things that you've done in your community, whether you belong to different groups in your respective communities. Those are the types of things that show us who you are, not, you know, what degree you have, or, you know, how many people are in your family or all that stuff. That stuff's important, but like Chief Lane said, I want to know who you are. I'm making my decision based off you as the individual. So, and every fire service oral board question is designed to give you the opportunity to show your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities in relation to that question, and then how to relate that back to the agency that you're testing for. So always close that full circle loop, answer the question, show who you are as an individual, and then tie it back to the agency.
Monet, do you have anything to add onto this slide for us?
I do. I wrote down a couple of notes. Earlier, we were talking about how the fire stations are kind of inaccessible right now because of the current situation. You can always call a station and ask if you can set a time to talk to some of the firefighters that are on shift that day, or set a different date for you to be able to call in and get some insider information. When we sit on a panel, and like Chief Lane said, we're interviewing up to 100 people, and we have a tendency to hear the same answer several times during that interview. You got to think, what's going to make you stand out? What's going to make you different? What answer can you give to that question that's not inside the box, but outside the box? And I think that's what we like to see in individuals, like, oh, they had an original question. And here's a prime example of an original answer. One of our questions during the last interview panel was define team, or it had something to do with team. I can't quote the exact question, but a lot of people went into sports because that was their background. A lot of folks talked about work teams. We had maybe one individual speak about their spouse. And I understand not everybody's married, not everybody has a spouse, but we really thought that was an original answer. They thought, when it comes to team, I think of my wife or husband. We thought that was a great answer. So that was kind of going outside the box. I have a sports background. I have a spouse. I have a family that I truly love. I have 10 aunts and uncles, and being able to say that during my interview, that I have 10 aunts and uncles, may not seem important information, but it makes me stand out. It shows that I've come from a big family, and I know what it's like to be involved with individuals like people that work with Eastside Fire and Rescue. Everybody has different personalities and different opinions, and we all get along. We're all family. Like Chief Lane said, family is family, and that's on our website. So when it comes to answering interview questions, think outside the box. That's it. Thanks, Danica.
All right, so our goal right now is we're gonna open up that Google Doc and open it up for questions. So just give me 1 second while I get everything set up. 1 second.
Danica asked me to be the intermission entertainment, so I'm just going to amuse you guys for a little bit here. All right, I'm trying to get everybody on the screen. There's a lot of people. Several of you are hiding behind your names and initials. So if you do have a camera, I would encourage you to turn it on, and then certainly after you do that, smile. That's important as well. It just prompted me to think about something here. So like when Pam Bryson sends out, or any organization sends out the opportunity to sign up on a Google Doc, or and sometimes people, be mindful of what your email address is. Is it a professional saying, or is it not quite as professional as you'd like it to be? Because we as an organization see all those things, and we've seen some pretty interesting emails. So maybe it's, I want to work for Eastside Fire and Rescue at gmail.com or something like that. But little things like that to be mindful of can then not necessarily penalize you in the interview process, but we might look at that twice and go, similar to pictures you might have behind, if you're your email shares a photo of something. So things like that to be mindful of. You know, unfortunately for us, again, we're not here, you know, personal, that individual interaction. You know, hopefully you guys have got a few things out of what we discussed today. And really by the end of the night, I think you're going to recognize is that there is no special recipe to being successful in an interview process. It's simply being who you are as an individual. And there's a lot of people who practice and practice to want to have the excellent canned answer. And then what if that question's not asked? I tell people just to have sort of a guide, you know, things that you want to make sure that you share about yourself. And then at the end, when they say, is there anything else you'd like to add? And you say, no, I'm good. Man, again, do not leave that in the car. Put it out there. Absolutely. And there's questions. We get questions. In the final round, we always ask, is there anything that you'd like to ask us? You know, have that. One of the best interviews that we had recently was in that process. I don't know how the individual did it. First off, they remembered everybody's name, which I'm not good at that in that short a time frame. And they asked us personal questions, and then they had great feedback to our answers. So we were engaging in a conversation, and it was completely, it set that person so far apart. So, you know, simply of, you know, Chief Lane, first off, remembered my name. You know, what is it that you really like about working here at Eastside Fire and Rescue? And I provide an answer, and they're like, yeah, you know, I really can appreciate, you know, the serving family philosophy or something. And it was just queuing off of what my interaction was back. And we were essentially just having dialogue in the interview. I think I spoke earlier about the scoring process. Even saw in a couple of the questions, how is it scored? You know, yeah, there is a point system, but really like the first round, the group they're tasked with, you score people, but what we're asking them is, do you see yourself working with these individuals in the future? And that's all we want them to answer, yes or no. And it doesn't mean if they say no at that point that they don't ever want to. It's just like right now. And a lot of people on this particular call, the answer may very well have been yes. But when you get down to only able to move a certain number of people forward, a few other folks stand out just a bit more. It doesn't mean that you're not wanting to be part of this family. Round two, that second panel, when you're going to have 4 members of the organization, we task them, do you see yourself working with them tomorrow? And if the answer is yes, they move them forward. And really the job there is everybody in that final round has already been vetted through the Eastside Fire and Rescue family. And they try to make the chief and the battalion chiefs, or the deputy chiefs and battalion chiefs' job really hard, just to rate who we're going to hire first and who we're going to hire 10th. But it's not, there isn't a number for everything. And we don't, and the other great part is we don't set a number on necessarily who we move forward. There's just naturally kind of this separation within the group. And typically for us, when we bring an interview between 200 to 250 folks, there's this natural separation right around at the 60 to 70 mark. They get moved on to the next round. So we do whatever we can to move the group forward, and then they get interviewed, and then it hovers right around the 20 to 30 mark. So there isn't, hey, if you get a 12 or a 15 or a 25, that's what you're shooting for. You're really shooting to convey to the folks sitting across the table that they go, you know what, I can absolutely see myself working with that individual. Or there's people who come back from the 7-minute interview and say, we need to hire this person today. And oddly enough, you see that same philosophy down the line. And a little something else that has drawn attention to this process is your written scores in PST. Okay, so public safety testing. Again, I referenced earlier that typically we take the top 50 written scores. I would say, and Pam might be able to help me out with this, but those that we've hired, the last 40 plus members, if we followed that same philosophy, I think we would have hired less than 5 of those people. So again, it just really demonstrated to us how big of a filter that written process is. And we're still working, you know, you're going to see this process change and change and change. We just want to continually be innovative. And it's more about how can we do what we can to get people who align with this organization. It doesn't mean follow suit and say, sir, yes, sir, and ma'am, yes, ma'am. It's about core values and what this organization stands for today and what we strive to be tomorrow. Okay, my entertainment time is over. I'm going to move it back over to Danica.
All right, you guys. So I started getting some questions ready. I've assigned actually like Lieutenant Ramstad, one of the room's questions, Monet, one of the questions. I'm going to start with one of the questions that I saw in room 2, and it was number 3, and it said, in regards to the fire department's vision statements, are you looking for clear, concise answers or looking for candidates to truly express what it means to them personally? And I think across the board, it doesn't matter if it's Eastside or any other fire department. What I'm going to recommend to you is that it is what it means to you personally, but the best way to answer those questions is going into that interview knowing Eastside or whatever department's mission statement and tying it into a story of how you've demonstrated in the past accomplishing those same mission and values, right? Because anyone can tell me that, yep, they care about family, they care about serving the community. That's great. Like, I'm sure everyone does. But if you can tell me a story in a minute or two of how in the past you've served your community and tie it into that mission statement, it's going to put you so much further ahead. I'm going to let Monet take over and answer a question as well right now. So Monet, pick any one from that section that I assigned you to.
Hey, Danica, I'm getting the computer up right now. Still working on getting that document up.
I got mine ready. So one of the questions I've got is, let me pick through this really quick. One of them's like asks about hitting buzzwords versus presenting a coherent and genuine story. I think we kind of covered that already. We're not one of those agencies that during that process we're looking for, you know, key buzzwords like some bigger kind of civil service type testing agencies do, like maybe a Seattle. Again, it's all about the individual. We want to know who you are. I don't want to just hear a bunch of, you know, random words that, you know, somebody's just kind of belting out. So again, let us know who you are as an individual. So way more along the lines of genuine story than just trying to say a bunch of buzzwords. I think we've covered, so I'm working on room 1. I think we've covered most of these already. What is the right, one of the questions is, what is the right balance to talk about personal life story versus professional experiences? Again, we kind of hit on that. It's, you know, all of your professional experiences are important, but again, we're making that decision based on who you are as an individual, and do I want to invest the next, you know, how many ever years left I have in my career, you know, to work as a team with you. You know, do I want you on a crew with me? Can I work with you for 24 hours? Those are the things I'm basing my decisions on. So the professional experiences, while they are very important, I wouldn't, you know, hang your respective hats on what you've accomplished or what you've done or what certifications you hold. It's more about who you are. It's about the best way I can answer that. And that pretty much takes care of everything from room 1.
Awesome. So I saw in room 2, it was the very last question, if you guys have it pulled up, and it's talking about active duty military and what you would recommend to military personnel in regards to studying the department and trying to express why I want to work there. And I think that goes back to looking up our website, right? So if you are not familiar with the Issaquah, Sammamish, North Bend area at all, starting on our website and then even researching the area locally, like, Eastside serves a lot of different communities from what your standard fire department is normally dealing with. So knowing that we have a tech rescue team, knowing we have swift water, surface water, that we go on trail rescues, we're not just fighting fire in the city, we're not just going on aid calls, like all of these different things. So start with our website, start with researching the cities in general. And then I think one of the best things you can do, it comes back to getting out of your comfort zone, is calling the department. Or if you can get in touch with Pam, which you have her email already and it's also on our website, maybe she can put you in contact with one of our crews, right? So if you're active duty, we now know that we can do a lot of things over Zoom. We can do a lot of things over email. And so if you can form maybe a relationship with a crew and get to know them, learn about the department, learn about the area, I think that's going to be a really good way to go.
Okay, I'm looking in room 5 here, and it says, what type of prior work experience should we talk about or mention in the interview if we don't have volunteer firefighter experience, EMS experience, etc.? You know, and this you would find from us, but if you exploring our website, looking at you know, our mission statement, you know, if you have jobs where service, teamwork, value, so just because you haven't, again, for us, the fire service side, I mean, it helps, but you absolutely do not have to have fire service experience. Even things within your life, if you don't have a lot of job experience that really translates and relates to this, there's people who make drastic career changes from maybe a tech industry, and they just feel like, you know, what they've been contributing there, they're not getting anything out of work. There's this financial benefit, but they feel empty as an individual, and they're really seeking something to find a balance, to make themselves whole, make themselves feel like they're contributing. So it might also be articulating what you're not getting for you as a person in your current profession, and what you're seeking in this endeavor to become a firefighter, a paramedic, or an EMT, or whatever agency you're interviewing for at the time. So I think even what you're currently not satisfied with is just as important. Now, there's the right way to articulate that, right? Don't talk about how much you hate doing this. You know, it's not that. It's just that I'm not getting fulfillment, therefore I'm transitioning this way. Does National Registry EMT certification make a difference in the interview? Again, for us, I'm not even sure I've even looked at, even in the final round. I hate to mention that. I know there's a lot of work that goes into, you know, everybody's resume, but it doesn't, for us, it doesn't matter, because if or say when you're hired here, you're going to go back through the academy, and you're going to go back through the EMT. And that we do that for a couple of reasons. One is to make sure that everybody's starting from the same baseline, but two, you're building that family network in your academy group. For me personally, in my fire service career, and I've worked here for 26 years, one of my most fulfilling assignments was an academy instructor. It was awesome. So I have fond memories of being in an academy, and then right there with that is being an academy instructor, because you really are building that family, those values right then and there. So that's part of the reason why the department sends you back through that, not that we discount anything that you've done previously. And those of you who have fire service experience, you can absolutely take a leadership role in the academy and help other people along. So that's what we really truly expect. We're hiring, I think we're hiring 6. They're going to start the academy, and the expectation is all 6 graduate. And if one person is falling behind, it's the group of it's the responsibility of the team to pull them along. So in short, it doesn't matter what certification you have at the time of the interview.
Chime into that really quick, because I think I'm kind of the perfect example of that. When I came in, my background was I was a manager at Nordstrom's, and I was a manager at a dialysis facility, and I had zero firefighting experience, but I had a good attitude. I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I was able to get a chance taken on me. Eastside is not the only department that does this. So I've been hearing across the board, whether it be Central Pierce, Kirkland has taken on this same approach as us. There's a multitude of departments across the region now that if you don't have your EMT or you don't have your firefighter 1 or 2, it's still realistic to get hired. The thing that I would recommend though is those are great things to invest in. For me, the academy was really, really challenging because I did not have that experience. So I don't want to deter people away from not doing it. I think for me, I had to work a lot harder than my peers, and I had to learn really, really quickly. And I wouldn't want that for anyone. So definitely look into at least volunteering or those firefighter 1 and 2s, because it'll give you that experience and that confidence to succeed in the academy. Same goes for EMT. I did not have my EMT, and I was put through a 5-week EMT course that it's a lot of information, and it's a really thick book that you have to knock out in 5 weeks. So it kind of goes either way. You got to think about what your priorities are, how good of a learner you are, how hard you're going to work. Taking those classes ahead of time, for me, looking back, would have been so beneficial. If I could go back now and do the academy and EMT, not to say it would be a breeze, but I would feel significantly more confident and more well prepared.
And I'm going to actually piggyback on that too as well, Danica. Yeah. One of the things that all of you collectively have going for you is we're kind of in a historic time right now in the fire service. If you put some of this stuff to practical use, you're going to get hired. The simple fact of the matter is we're there was a huge hiring boom back in the late 80s, early 90s, and a lot of those individuals are now starting to retire. So if you can put some of these little tips and tricks to practical use and continue to get better and continue to work hard and stick with it and be positive, you guys are going to get hired. There's going to be so much opportunity to get a job in the fire service. So, back to that attitude is everything. Choose to look at every, quote unquote failure as a learning opportunity to get better for the next one. And if you stick with that, you'll be able to write your own ticket, and you'll end up where you were meant to be. So.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna see. I was room 9 had a question. How do you narrow down the group based on the 3 questions? The 3 questions seem to be broad. What exactly are you looking for? I think we touched quite a bit on that so far, but it really comes down to who you are as an individual. And I just want to correct Danica on something. She said that Eastside Fire and Rescue took a chance. We didn't take a chance. And I think that that's how maybe some people might feel in the interview process if you don't have fire service experience. Again, it comes back to, what we see in, Danica as an example, Monet, I think Cody and I went through the older, more traditional process. It's like, we absolutely see ourselves working with that individual. There is no chance on that. And so when you are in the interview process, don't feel like you're behind the 8 ball just because you don't have this piece and this piece and this piece. You be yourself. And I asked this question, do you want to work someplace where you can't be yourself for 30 years? No, not a freaking chance, right? So if you can't be yourself in the interview process and that organization doesn't select you for who you are, they probably did you a favor, okay? So I really, truly, I don't know how much I can express the fact that, yeah, we have 3 questions. There is no such thing as I also highlighted buzzword. There are no buzzwords. We don't have buzzwords. There's nothing specifically we're looking for people to say. We're looking for you to be you. And it doesn't mean that, hey, if you didn't get moved on in this process, doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you align with the organization. Just right now, that time. And I think today, while everybody's here right now, you all probably struggled being yourself in the interview process. Feel like you left something behind. So you have it all. It's like breaking down those barriers, that confidence coming through, being who you are. You're taking a huge step here moving forward. You know, you might be surprised by some of the answers you're hearing from us, that it's not as scientific as people might believe, and we're not looking for certain things. I think Monet's going on a call.
I gotta go on a call, guys. Sorry.
I'm so jealous of those days.
All right. I'm going to take one. It says tying life experience into the fire service. A lot of the questions that you'll start seeing once you make it past the 7-minute interview, and probably like for most interviews in general, they're going to ask you to give examples of times you've been in a stressful situation, or times that you've had trouble maybe with another employee and how you handled it. So all of that life experience can be tied into the fire service. I think about one of my questions was, tell us about a time that you helped another person. And so something that I used specifically for that was I had a nurse that was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And at the time, right, I didn't have my EMT, but I am a fitness enthusiast. I have a Google machine, and me and her came up with a plan to help manage this pre-phase of diabetes, right? Like how we came up with just a really easy workout plan. We worked on changing her diet in small pieces. I had weekly check-ins with her. It was something that I could use as a personal example of a life experience that didn't have to do with the fire service, that I could tie into that question. And I know I'm deviating from this question right now, but I think the biggest thing that can help you is draft all these questions, right? Like 10 questions that you can then give individual stories of how you've actually done that in your life. And they're always going to be different. And I can't give you an answer individually for each individual person. But what I'm looking for in those interviews is, I have done this in my life. I've demonstrated it. This is what I did. And it shows me that you actively can do it. If people talk about hypotheticals, everyone can do that. So give me, in every answer, give me a story of how you have demonstrated this in your life. Cody, I'll let you take a question.
Okay, I lost my signal at some point and had to rejoin the meeting, so I don't have the Google Doc link anymore.
Cody, can you ask, in room 6, they said, how do you get a mentor in the fire service? And I think you'd be a good candidate for speaking to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, we talked about getting outside your comfort zone, right? Cold calling a fire station may not be, one of the most comfortable things to do, but if you don't have anybody in the fire service that you can lean on to try and get information from, cold call a fire station, talk to somebody and say, hey, I'm really interested in getting into the fire service. I'd like to get some more information, and maybe, talk to somebody about help coach me through the process. But the funny thing is what I've learned is it's the 7 degrees thing, right? All of you know somebody who knows a firefighter. If you don't have a mentor in the fire service, I guarantee each and every one of you has somebody that you can reach out to that knows a firefighter that they can put you in contact with. Honestly, like this process and helping those coming into the fire service is one of the most rewarding things I've been able to do in my career. Like I said, I've done a lot of interview prep with prospective recruits, and to watch them gradually make incremental strides, as being their mentor is one of the most fulfilling things that I can do. So don't look at it as from, oh man, I don't want to imposition somebody, or I don't want to, You know, I don't want to feel like I'm nagging somebody to, you know, pay attention to me or anything like that. Like it's truly been one of the best things I've done in my career is to help people through the process. So don't be afraid to reach out, and use your contacts, and use your, you know, your each individual unique, you know, contact list of people that, you know, to try and, you know, figure out and find somebody in the fire service who can help you along through the process. That's about all I can really think of. So.
Okay. Room 3 asked, what is the most common pitfall that you see candidates display when in the interview process? I think this really came out from this last round where you guys were all staged out front in the tent. The video was playing. You guys were socially distanced, interacting. And when we had one of our panelists come out and call your name and they walked back with you, a lot of you were able to be yourself. There was some small talk. You were relaxed, and then you sat down and there was this transformation, right, into somebody that you're not. That's the part I think that's the piece of that's that pitfall where something about sitting down in that seat that gets in your way, and that's the block of allowing you to be yourself as an individual. So you know, it's not what someone says. It's just more that you can really feel. I mean, there's a lot of times in interviews like, man, that I can tell that person there's some value in that person, but it's just not coming out in the process. And again, as Monet referenced earlier, you know, when a panel is interviewing 100 people and you get down to, you know, essentially each panel is going to move, you know, 10 to 15 candidates forward. How are you in that top 10 or 15? And that's the pitfall, I think, as individuals. And, you know, and I've certainly done that many times in my life. I found myself in situations like, dang it, that wasn't you. Why did you do that? Why did you say that? You idiot, you know, and you beat yourself up all the way back home. So I know it's not that easy to just get out of your own way and let yourself be successful. That kind of goes back to some of those things we talked about, tools in the toolbox, challenging yourself, recording, video, a lot of that, so that you can replicate that process and be able to look back and go, okay, you know what, I just need to relax, have fun. This is the best job in the world, okay? So have that level of excitement when you show up and interview for the best freaking career in the world, right? Have it come out in who you are as the other person across the table. It's like, all right, I'm taking this person. We're hiring them tomorrow. And then there was a question, I think it was in room 4. What are red flags? What are red flags the panel's looking for during the interview process? Okay, well, in the Eastside Fire and Rescue philosophy, we're not looking for your flaws. We're not looking for what you're not answering and what you're doing wrong. So we don't seek out red flags. There's not something specific. You just might not have a great interview, or somebody might have spent time way off topic and just didn't feel like they were engaged. But it's not, you know, hopefully for you, your experience, you at least sat across somebody who smiled. And if they didn't, they should have. Because again, a smile does a lot to relax a group, be yourself, be an individual. But we're not looking for what you did or didn't do. I mean, as far as like a red flag, that's a red flag. You know, I'll use the example of business attire, okay? Don't go out and break the bank to show up to a 7-minute interview. I mean, put on the best thing you have in your closet. Show up there, you sit down anyway, you see about this much of what it is you are wearing, and have fun with it. So you're not judged by that. I think we judge each other when we stand out there, you know, the suit and the tie, the professional business attire, but it's not a red flag if you don't show up in that. So I don't have an answer what red flags are looking for. I'm just telling you honestly, we are not looking for your flaws and faults. And we're trying to help you be who you are as an individual. And it goes back to, the majority of the group here probably would rather be judged or given the opportunity to explain who you are as an individual for 7 minutes than rolling the clock back to give me the top 50 written scores. We're going to bring you into the interview round and so on, you know. So we're not looking for flaws. I have plenty. Ask anybody here, okay?
Okay, so I know we're getting close. I have a couple more that I want to answer that I saw. Room 5, does your department care that a potential hire would additionally want to become a paramedic? So in my chief's interview with Eastside Fire and Rescue, I said I wanted to join the paramedic program. And I had a deputy chief sitting across from me that used to be a paramedic, and he informed me that Eastside does not have a paramedic program. And I left that interview confident that I would never see Eastside Fire and Rescue again. So things that we're looking at, we're hoping that at some point we will get a medic program. Right now we utilize Bellevue's medics. That's not something, I would love to see that personally. If I'm hiring someone, it shows that you're passionate about fire, you're passionate about patient care. Even if we don't end up getting one down the road, it'd still be something that we're like, that person is passionate about it. I think that's great. That's not something that would deter us from hiring you. How do we come across as not sounding canned? The best way to do that is to have those stories, right? For me, just speaking from my heart, having those stories, how you've demonstrated stuff, the worst way, I know we get nervous, but if you have something so memorized to a T that you can't deviate from it and expand, that's when it starts to come off as canned. So kind of like I'm doing right now, showing my personality. I have my hands going. I'm trying to engage with you as best as possible. If you're sitting here, hands just like tightly down, not really deviating, making eye contact. Even if you have a good answer, you're not showing your personality or the passion behind that answer, and it's going to make it sound more canned. There is another one. How do we, in room 9, improve ourselves outside of going through firefighting training and academy? I can tell you what I did. So while I was a manager at that dialysis facility, I took it upon myself to get trained as a patient care technician, right? Because I was passionate when I got into the fire service about that patient care side. So that allowed me to work with patients in a medical field. That's an easy example. When I decided that I wanted to start firefighting, I weighed 120 pounds. I had just been freshly out of college running, and there was no way that I was going to have the strength to become a firefighter. So getting into something that's physically fit and going on a program, like being involved in something like that, being involved in coaching, being involved in a craft, being involved in a hobby, all those things can prepare you for our job. There's so many things that we see on a daily basis that you kind of have to make it up as you go, and having all those different life experiences is just going to help you that much more. Cody, you have anything to add on that in that regard?
Yeah, I think that, having a good level of physical fitness and I think nutrition plays a huge part in it. You guys may or may not, know that cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of firefighters on the line. So coming in with that, really well-established workout routine, a good nutrition background. So you're not, it's the whole good in gets good out, right? So, try and tweak your eating habits now so that you're eating healthier. And believe it or not, it sounds ridiculous, but when I stopped eating all the terrible food and started, really focusing on what I was putting into my body, my interviews got better. My written scores got better. I was moving further along in the process for agencies that I was testing for. So it all, there's interplay with everything. Like it all, everything is, depends on itself to I'm rambling right now, but just focus on those two things, and it's amazing how that will add to, what you're trying to do. So, but again, we're not looking for somebody to come in with this huge fire service background, right? It's our job as an agency, to hire you, the individual, because of who you are. We can train you, right? So, and that's our job, to train you, and to, help you be safe and all that kind of stuff. So I've never really, to be honest, when people in the interview process start going through all their certifications that they hold and all the things they've done in the fire service, I kind of, I don't tune out, but I kind of glaze over a little bit, right? Because I want to know who you are. That's what I'm basing my decision on. So anyway.
I'm going to have Chief Lane answer one more question here. I know we are at 7:30. We're kind of at the end of our presentation here. So I'm just trying to get in as many of those questions as I can for you. Here, I'll go. So it looks like Daniel answered a question real quick. It said, how many departments did you Eastside Fire personnel apply for before getting hired? Let's see. Man, maybe like 5. And around the same time that I was getting hired with Eastside, I was also interviewing with Central Pierce down in Puyallup, Washington. And so those were kind of my 2. And I think what really makes it stand out, right? Like the Chief Lane spoke to this earlier in terms of the culture. So I live 5 minutes from a Central Pierce Fire and Rescue station. Eastside offered me first. And it wasn't that I felt obligated to them, but my experiences with the culture in terms of the interviews that I had with Central Pierce and the interviews that I had with Eastside is what helped me make that decision, right? Like I felt the family aspect that Chief Lane has been talking about. In terms of how many you applied for before getting hired, we've had people that have applied maybe once or to a couple departments and have gotten hired. I went to an academy with a girl that she'd been testing for 10 years. And this was the last year her husband was going to let her attempt. And she got a job with Woodinville. And now she's been a firefighter for 4 years. So it's so different for every single person. I don't think there's really an exact answer for that.
Yeah, for me, it was when I was 18 years ago, when I was trying to get hired, the auspices surrounding, the hiring atmosphere in the region were a lot different. I slept on a sidewalk one night because the city of Auburn was only giving out 250 applications the next day. So, it's a lot different now, like I said, than it was back when I got hired. And back to my earlier point, if you guys just keep grinding, keep, making yourself better incrementally each and every time, you guys are getting hired. This is a really good time to try and get a job in the fire service. You can do it. You absolutely can do it. So I wouldn't get too hung up on a number. I mean, for me, when I was testing, I cast a pretty broad net. I went as far east as I live in just outside of Seattle. For those of you, most of you probably local, but some of you aren't. I went as far to the eastern border as Spokane, as far north to Bellingham, as far south to Vancouver, and a couple agencies out on the peninsula as well. So I think I took maybe 3 or 4 tests before I got hired with Eastside. So, but I had many more in the hopper that I was going to take had Eastside not worked out. So, but back to my earlier point, I wouldn't get hung up on a number of how many tests it takes anyone to get hired. It's all about who puts in the work, who makes themselves better, who can get their story across during that interview in an organic way that lets that panel get to know them. That's the important thing.
Okay, I'm going to answer one last question, then we'll do some closing remarks and let you guys go watch the end of the Seahawks game. don't tell me the score, it's DVR'd. So the question is, what am I missing? I feel I interviewed very well. How do I reassess my presentation? So on that, I mean, it's great that people come out of an interview process and you feel like you did well. Everybody understands that it is competitive, right? So it's just finding that little extra edge. That's the part of, you know, in the preparation, I don't know specifically, I'd be happy to chat with this person, but, you know, interview prep, have you done? Have you videoed yourself? Have you run yourself through mock interviews? Sometimes we have blind spots that we're not aware of. Danica mentioned, you know, people fidgeting, clicking pens, dropping something, drinking. So, you know, it's hard to say what specifically you're missing. That piece would just say, well, what do I need to work on? And I personally would say, well, maybe record yourself. The 3 questions that we asked, you probably at least can recall most or the majority of that question. Ask yourself and video it. And when you see it and watch, it's like, am I really being myself? Am I being authentic? Or I feel like I'm trying to, I'm a salesperson trying to convince somebody of something versus really being who you are as an individual. So that's kind of a hard one, walking away from an interview feeling like you were successful and then you didn't move on to the next round. But I think I mentioned earlier is that, well, if you really truly felt like that was who you are and you came out in that process and you weren't selected, it's kind of that, again, it's the 30-year, you're going to join a family. Well, maybe it's not the right fit. I don't think that's what this question's articulating. And certainly the person's here looking to improve more. I would just continue to encourage you to be positive, set that goal, have something visual so you can strive towards on a daily basis. And again, Danica just referenced somebody in the academy who tested for 10 years and got a job. It's definitely worth it. So don't surrender. We could probably talk all night long. We always go, we got an hour and a half, and then I look up and we're already over the time frame. So we want to be respectful of your time as well. You know, on behalf of Eastside Fire and Rescue, and me personally, I really do truly appreciate what you have invested in this organization, interviewing with us, taking time tonight, striving to be better. I wish you all the best in your next interview process. And I'm confident that next year we might see some of you, or at least everybody's back, and then maybe even a select few at the final round. So again, all the best to you. Good luck. Thanks for being here tonight. And then I'm going to let Danica close it out. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Just like Chief Lane said, and I know that last question is tough, right? I have seen a lot of candidates or a lot of interview panelists be very open to giving feedback. It's really hard to do with that 7-minute interview, but as you go on, ask those people at the end as they're walking you out. I've seen like Lieutenant Mahoney, who wasn't able to join us tonight, offer up his email. We are more than willing to help you. So if you get done with the interview and you're walking out with your panelist, if there's anything we can do to help, ask, and we will try. We write notes on every candidate, and so we try to keep it all together and offer as much help as we can after the interviews are done. Thank you guys so much. Our goal, right, is we're going to send this out as a link for you using all the emails that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to Pam, who's HR. She'll give you, if you guys are ready to write it down, she's going to give you her email. So go ahead, Pam.
Okay, so like everyone said, you know, we would like to help you in your pursuit, and feel free to email me. My email address is on the website, but I'll give it to you now. It's pbryson, BRYSON, at ESF, like Eastside Fire, -r.org. Feel free to email me if you want to make contact with one of the stations. They are not publicly on our website, the phone numbers, but I'm happy to to put you in touch with them. And all I ask is that if you email me that you're patient for my response, because I do get a lot of emails, but I promise I won't forget about you, and we're here for you. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Danica.
Could I ask a real quick question verbally across, or should I include it in chat or just send an email to Pam?
No, you can ask a question really quick.
Go for it.
Just curious. So like in the consideration of the situation we're in with COVID, you know, not being able to do ride-alongs or get to feel or see and experience the culture at Eastside, moving forward, like, are you guys currently taking volunteers and training them and taking on new positions at this point? Or is it kind of like no new people? Or what's the best way for me as somebody who wants to experience Eastside and everyone else here to make sure we're able to do that, to make sure we know that Eastside is where we want to be?
Yeah, good question. The short answer on the volunteer and reserve program, no, currently that's frozen. So yeah, it's definitely difficult to, you know, have the inside experience. But I think you can get a pretty good glimpse, especially once we're beyond COVID, and show up and visit a station, have a conversation. You know, I know I would be more than willing to have a one-on-one conversation just like this over Zoom or MS Teams or any other platform. And that's where we would encourage you to call the stations. Every one of us have been in your shoes. So when you do, whether it's an Eastside station or anywhere else, reaching out and asking for that opportunity to understand who we are. You know, it's not, it'd be very challenging for any department to know exactly what the organizational, like the complete full fit and feel of the department. But I think that's just, we're taking the time to have conversations on whatever platform is available. So right now it's phone or virtual. Then as soon as we open up stations, doing a station visit. A note on that though, so doing a station visit and trying to learn about the department after you're invited to an interview, especially in round one when we're inviting 400 people, is not the time. We actually have sort of a closed door policy just because we don't have the capacity, and we don't want to you know, give somebody else an inside look and turn someone else down. So just think about that as you prepare for your future endeavors in your interview processes. You're more than welcome to reach out to us anytime. It's just within that window when you are in the interview process and you've been invited. So it's not that we don't want to chat with you. It's just we can't chat with everybody at the same time. So
Thank you.
All right. So with that, we're going to close it. Thank you guys so much for the comments in the chat that I'm seeing right now. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I'm sorry that we don't have enough time to answer all the questions, but I feel like we cruised through a lot of them. And like Pam said, you can reach out and hopefully she can put us in touch if you have any more questions for us. So thank you so much. It was great to somewhat be able to do this and see your guys' faces. So good luck with all the interviewing that you have coming up. And hopefully we will get to see you again for our Eastside Fire and Rescue interviews.
Thank you.